The champagne glass trembled in her hand. The numbers on the giant screen behind the stage glowed in unforgiving red. And in that glittering ballroom filled with power, wealth, and ego, a single dad sitting quietly in the second row smiled like a man who had already won. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet strength of those who refuse to give up, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this deserve to be heard. The annual Forbes Legacy Gala was never about charity alone. It was about status, influence, bloodlines. The richest families gathered under chandeliers that sparkled like falling stars, their names printed in gold across programs thicker than novels. This year, all eyes were supposed to be on Victoria Laurent, the young banking heiress who had just inherited her father's empire. At 28, she had the sharp cheekbones of privilege and the icy confidence of someone who had never heard the word no without rewriting it into later. But tonight, something was different. At the far end of the ballroom sat Daniel Reyes, a single father in a modest navy suit that had been tailored twice to last longer than his paycheck allowed. His hands were calloused, not from golf clubs but from years of fixing broken engines and broken dreams. 5 years earlier, his wife had passed away suddenly, leaving him with a 3-year-old daughter and a mountain of medical debt. The world had expected him to collapse. Instead, he learned to braid hair at dawn, pack lunches with love notes, and build a tech repair startup from the corner of his garage while his daughter colored beside him. He was not supposed to be here. Victoria had noticed him the moment he walked in. She recognized the name on the guest list only because her assistant had highlighted it with a curious note: self-made. Rapid growth. Clean record. Watch. She had smirked at the phrase self-made. In her world, fortunes were inherited, not built from scraped knuckles and sleepless nights. The evening flowed with polite applause and hollow speeches. Victoria took the stage first, delivering a flawless address about legacy, responsibility, and the future of ethical banking. Cameras flashed as she announced a strategic acquisition that would expand her family's empire into emerging tech markets. The crowd roared approval. Her father's portrait on the screen behind her seemed to nod in silent approval. Then the host cleared his throat and announced a surprise update to the Forbes annual list, projected live for the audience. The red digits flickered. Victoria glanced at the screen casually at first. She expected to see her surname climbing higher, as always. Instead, she saw a new entry surging upward faster than anyone predicted. Daniel Reyes. Net worth revised. Impact rating exceptional. Fastest growing private innovator of the year. The room shifted. Her heartbeat stumbled as if it had missed a step on marble stairs. She refreshed the update on her phone. Then again. Her perfectly controlled breath grew shallow. Daniel's company, once dismissed as a small repair and recycle operation, had just secured a massive global sustainability contract. Investors loved him not only for profit margins but for ethics, for transparency, for a story that made headlines feel human again. Daniel did not stand. He did not gloat. He simply smiled. That smile unsettled Victoria more than any victory speech could have. It wasn't arrogance. It was relief. It was the smile of a man remembering nights when electricity had almost been cut off, when he had skipped meals so his daughter wouldn't have to, when banks, including hers, had rejected his first loan application because he lacked generational backing. Victoria felt heat rise to her face despite the cool air conditioning. Sweat traced a line down her spine beneath designer silk. She had spent her life protecting an empire built before she was born. Daniel had built something from nothing while raising a child alone. As applause thundered for the new rankings, Victoria's mind wandered to a memory she had buried. A meeting years ago, when a tired young man had sat across from her father's executive board asking for funding to scale a sustainable tech idea. She hadn't been paying attention then. She had been scrolling through her phone. She remembered the polite dismissal, the phrase, "too risky," the way the man had gathered his papers with quiet dignity. Was that him? Daniel finally rose when the host insisted he say a few words. The microphone looked small in his steady hands. He spoke about resilience, about teaching his daughter that failure is not the opposite of success but its foundation. He mentioned the importance of second chances, not with bitterness but with gratitude for every closed door that had forced him to build his own. Victoria watched the crowd lean toward him, not because of his wealth but because of his story. Something inside her shifted. For the first time, the weight of inherited power felt heavier than inspiring. After the ceremony, she found him near the dessert table, away from cameras. He was looking at a photo on his phone, smiling at what was likely his daughter's bedtime selfie. She felt a tightness in her chest she couldn't name. Envy? Regret? Or the sudden realization that legacy without empathy was hollow? In that quiet corner, without an audience, she did something she had never done before. She apologized, not just for the loan rejection years ago, but for a system that measured worth by pedigree rather than potential. Her voice trembled, not from weakness but from awakening. Daniel listened without triumph. He spoke about nights when he had doubted himself, when his daughter had asked why other kids had more. He admitted that he had once resented families like hers. But he also said something that stayed with her long after the music resumed: wealth is powerful, but kindness multiplies faster. That night did not end with a rivalry. It began with collaboration. Victoria returned to her board the next morning with a proposal that shocked everyone. She would create a fund dedicated to single parents and first-time founders who lacked collateral but had courage. She would partner with Daniel's company to build sustainable tech incubators in underserved communities. It was not charity for headlines. It was transformation. The heiress who once relied on inheritance began earning respect the hard way. She visited community workshops, listened to struggling entrepreneurs, and felt sweat on her own palms for the first time as she took real risks. Her empire did not shrink, it deepened. Daniel's daughter eventually met Victoria at a launch event years later. The little girl, now older and confident, thanked the woman who had believed in other parents like hers. Victoria realized in that moment that true wealth was measured in opportunity created for others. And that smile Daniel had worn in the ballroom? It wasn't about climbing a list. It was about proving to his daughter that resilience writes its own destiny. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that power should uplift rather than exclude, please like this video, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what truly matters. Before this story ends, I have one special request. Comment the word "second chance" below if you believe no one should be defined by rejection. Because sometimes, the most powerful moment in a room full of billionaires is not when someone rises in rank, but when someone chooses to rise in character. And in that glittering ballroom, under crystal lights and flashing cameras, a single dad's quiet smile changed more than a list. It changed a legacy.